Hey there. So this time of year, people start talking to me a lot about goal setting, and it's pretty understandable seeing as though it's the end of the year. Most of the time, I hear people or some of my clients will come to me and talk to me about setting like one particular goal, right? I want to lose weight this year. I want to make this amount of money. I want to do this. I want to travel more, right? But it's very big and generic with not a lot of follow through planning to really set yourself up for success for this goal. So I've been asked several times to make this video, and I'm going to take the time to do so now. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, probably the best bet. If not, you can always pause me or come back to it. But I'm going to show you the best way I have found to set up goals for the year. It's a simple system, but simple doesn't always mean easy. So that's why, like I said, pen and paper are going to be your best friend for the next few minutes as I kind of go through this. So starting off, the thing that you need to know most is, and this is not my system, this is not something I created. I've found something similar through reading a lot of books from gurus and folks who are all about creating your best life and giving you the best opportunity to be successful. So basically what they tend to do is break it down into 4 categories, and you can use these 4 categories as best suits your life and your situation. So the first one being business, right? Whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you have a career that you're happy with, whether you're looking to a new career, right? But first one is business, and you can write that down. Business, career, however you want to word it, it's just for you. Next is going to be relationships, and relationships can mean, a significant other. It can mean family and friends. It can mean all sorts of different things. But relationship, again, it's kind of an overarching concept. Next, we're going to talk about our physical health and physical well-being. It could be physical fitness, could be nutrition, could be even mental health, but fitness in general. So I just use the overall arching term fitness. Again, you write it down however makes sense to you. And lastly would be your purpose or your spirituality. Again, everybody's a little different. We all have different markers for that, and you take it into context for your life. So in those 4 categories together make us pretty well-rounded human beings. So we constantly find ourselves battling between trying to have enough of each of those things and trying to balance those things. So what we're going to do is set up goals for those 4 categories. Now, I've heard those 4 categories called all sorts of different things. One writer in particular called them the core 4. That made a lot of sense to me, so that's what I'm going to refer to them as because it just clicked for me. And so when I go back to that core 4, I recognize that's really what I'm looking at. So again, use whatever terminology you want for those 4 things, but that's what we're going to be focused on. So as you set up your goals, remember, this is going to be a time-consuming thing. Don't think you're going to get through this fast, and it should be time-consuming. We're talking about setting up success for the rest of the year. It's certainly worth putting in an hour to really dive into what it is you really want. I explain to people pretty frequently, I live in Oregon. If I decided that I wanted to drive to New York, great, that's my overarching goal. But somewhere in between there, I'm going to have to plan out some stops, some places to stay, some places to get gas, some places to eat. I don't know, maybe even a few sightseeing trips in the process. But if I just take off with an ultimate goal to go to New York, how many side streets and variations am I going to take in order to get to my overarching goal when I could have streamlined this and had a better system in place? So think about your annual goals as where you're trying to get to the end of your next year. So as we set this down, that's what we want. We want goals in all 4 of those categories, your overarching annual goal. I find for myself personally that I will notice kind of an overarching theme in each one of those places. So to give you an example, in 2019, I was working with the amazing Aaron Giannetti, who I adore. If you have not had the chance to work with him through his instructor elevation program or anything else he does, I would highly recommend it. He's amazing. Proud to call him one of my coaches. But he helped me set up a mantra for 2019, and it hit all 4 of those categories for me. And for me, that was, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And because in those 4 categories of my life, I maybe found myself maybe giving more than I should. And that created some issues for me in that I was doing things that maybe weren't 100% for me. So I had to learn to start saying no in some places. And in that saying no, I actually found a lot of freedom to do the things that I was really passionate about. So that's why finding a mantra that kind of strings these themes together can be helpful. You can create a mantra for each one of these categories, but it's a certain phrase that you can say to yourself. that you can come back to that really helps you realign what you're actually after. And as things come up throughout the year, which they will, you can go back to that mantra to really ask yourself, does this fit with the goals and the things that I'm trying to achieve by the end of the year? It just really helps you to refocus. So find a goal for all 4 of those categories for the year overall arching. If you can, find some sort of a short mantra that works for you that you can come back to the rest of the year to make sure that you've realigned your goals. Now, from there, we're going to break it down even more. Of that core 4, we're going to take a look into all 4 categories of the year. That's 3 months, right? So January to March. What are your goals in those first 3 months in all 4 of those categories? You're going to do that for each quarter. This should take some time. As I go from quarter 1, I'm going to move into quarter 2 as if I have completed everything in quarter 1. Even if you haven't quite hit your goals there, we're going to continue to work with them through quarter 2. Does that make sense? So then we go into quarter 3, assuming we've made those goals happen all the way through quarter 4. This allows us to really continue to build. Even if you haven't quite hit those goals, we're still working toward them in the next quarter. From there, once we have all of those goals set in place, again, remember I told you this is going to take some time, then we want to start looking at breaking down the week. So maybe your goal at the beginning of the year was, I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, that's great, but we have to have a very planned out system in order to make ourselves successful. So as we break down quarters, maybe you're looking at 5 pounds per quarter, right? Okay, so what do I do each and every week to make sure that I am set up for success all the way through the year? And from there, once we've planned out our weeks pertaining to all of these goals, then we can look at the days. What I like to tell people is, as you plan out those days, it's really important to look for something I like to call small, achievable perfections. So one example for me is as I'm building relationships, because again, if we do this, we're looking for building deeper connections with those people in our lives. Sometimes my small achievable perfection within my relationships category is to send a text to somebody I haven't spoken with in a little while, or just to check up on a friend who is going through a hard time. It's a small achievable perfection that I can easily do. It doesn't take a whole lot of time, but in the full scope of the next year, as I look at those people that I have connected with or reached out to or planned or wrote a note for or did something small for, the amount of connection that I now have with that person, that individual, or this group of people, or anything along those lines is significantly deeper, right? Because each and every day I have a small achievable perfection. Maybe in your health and fitness, that could look as simple as, okay, I'm going to increase my water intake by 24 ounces, or I'm going to increase my protein by 10 grams, or I'm going to get in a 30-minute walk 3 times this week. Really, what we're looking for is small, achievable perfections each and every day, things you know you can accomplish. And there is really something special about having these small, achievable perfections in all 4 of these categories, taking these tiny steps each and every day, things that you know you can accomplish. You feel accomplished because they're small, they're achievable, and they are perfections, things you can do well. Now, as we start planning this out, again, starting with the overall goal of the year, working into quarters, into weeks, and then into days, this allows us to be as successful as possible. Now, there's much more that can go into this, but this is already a pretty long video, and there's a lot of information that I'm sharing with you. It should take you a good amount of time to go through this on your own. I would set aside an hour so that you can really dive into what it is that you want and what goals you want to achieve this year. So if you have any questions, reach out. If you're stuck, reach out. We can chat more, but start here. It's a great place to start, as opposed to just one broad, overarching goal like so many people do every year. Just want to see you all successful. Wish you the best and Happy New Year.